So good afternoon and thank you for joining us today for this webinar. First of all, my name is Charles Edwards. I'm a Detective Sergeant as part of the Cybercrime Unit of Leicestershire Police, and I manage the cybercrime portfolio along with my member of staff, Samantha Hancock, who's very kindly done a presentation. I've been asked to apologise briefly for the change in format. We were hoping to present this live, but actually also we have to ask you to download it. So hopefully you've been able to download from the website the presentation around how to protect your business from cybercrime. The presentation covered a whole area of things around the types of cybercrime we deal with, how it affects businesses, some advice, and really where you can go to get some more advice from useful websites. So please take a look at that. That will be hosted up on the website for you to get hold of. If you haven't got it, then feel free to contact myself or Sam and we'll send it out. Okay, so the technical bit now. So I'm here really to answer any questions you have. We're doing that using Skype for Business. So if you're joining this, hopefully Skype's working for you. You now need to click on the instant messenger icon in the bottom left-hand corner, looks like a speech bubble, or hopefully you will see a little box that says one new message. So if you click read on that, it should open up a box where you can type in any messages you can. I can see some people already have, so thank you for that. If you're having any problems and you can't get the message through, or if you're watching the recording, then please feel free to email emergency_management@leics.gov.uk, and then we'll reply to these later on. Thank you. Okay, so we've got a few messages in. I'll start with the first one that's come in. Thank you very much, James. So it says, what are the key areas we should train staff in? I think it's vital that with staff we give them as much responsibility in the area while giving them the education they need to understand what goes on. So we give them some advice around the risk of emails, of communication that comes in, of how easily they can be spoofed nowadays. But with that, the common sense and the approach of how they can check these things. So we advise around checking that an email has come from who you expect it to have come from. If someone's asking you to transfer lots of money, feel free to have an alternative communications channel to ask that person. And we get a lot of things called CEO fraud nowadays, where someone pretends to be, such as the finance or even the director of a company, and will actually say, please transfer this money, it's urgent. It appears to come from their address, the email address, it doesn't. I think that managers could take a bit of responsibility with their staff and have a secondary option, be it a phone call on their mobile. Just say, is this definitely from yourself? Is it true? Most managers would rather that than lots of money going missing. There is a big risk throughout every sector of bringing in USB sticks or devices. If you're going to bring one in, make sure your information security people are aware, make sure they've checked it. You don't know what you're bringing in. They don't know if it's safe on their network. And that's how we get a lot of data breaches, unfortunately, where people do this by accident. So we also have a lot of social engineering. People overshare a lot of information about themselves, about what they're doing, about their work, about where they're going online. Please be careful with your security settings. Okay, you might not feel like you are particularly important to your company. You will be, especially if you are seen as the weak link by someone. So make sure you only let people know what they need to know. You wouldn't walk down the street shouting you're going out of the country for a week, suggesting that you could be burgled. Well, why are you saying the same thing when you're doing other activities, especially through business? So keep it to people you know. So the next question, thank you very much from Annie. Which websites are the most helpful? So if you look at the presentation, there are some advice websites there on what to go for. We now have the National Cybersecurity Centre, which gives superb advice around what to do as a business, but we also have other sites that we rely on ourselves. So we're now in partnership along with several key partners in Leicestershire with GetSafe Online. So getsafeonline.org, they provide information as an individual, as a business, as someone who uses it for various different means. Do you use it for just browsing? Do you use it for shopping? Do you use it for banking? They give quite well-tailored advice about what to do to keep yourself safe. Action Fraud's a key partner for ourselves. Whilst they are not owned by the police, they are run in conjunction with us heavily, and they actually were brought about by the City of London Police. It means that we understand that cybercrime especially is very much a cross-border crime. Leicestershire Police cannot deal with every bit of cybercrime that affects someone in Leicester, because it probably affects people around the world, around the country. Action Fraud has a really good overview of every crime that comes in to do with cybercrime and fraud, as long as it's reported to them. So if you put in actionfraud.org, it will give you loads of information. It's a place where you can report cybercrimes. You can find out how your crime is being pursued through, and also it will give you some really good advice on what to do. So I would always say, personally, always report your crime to Action Fraud. Please tell us if it's causing an urgent issue to the company, especially if you're losing money or there's any safeguarding. But actually, Action Fraud needs to know as well for the bigger picture. Other than that, we've got the ICO, so the Information Commissioner's Office. They are very important around data. So everyone now has a certain amount of responsibility around the data they keep. That's only going to get more when we get in the GDPR legislation next year. That is within the presentation. Please do have a look. It's something you need to be aware of. The fines are quite staggering. You need to be putting in place things to protect yourselves. And that's not just for the data managers, that's members of staff as well. We've all heard the very embarrassing stories where data has been left on trains, on buses. Secure your data, keep it safe. You wouldn't want your data getting out there. And then Cyber Essentials. So Cyber Essentials, it's a government-led scheme. It gives some advice. It's a little bit more cartoony, so it can be seen as patronising, but it's very good at getting the message across with some context, with simple messages, and that's what we're all about. Let's keep it really simple. Let's make sure people understand it, and let's make sure that it can be passed on. We don't just want you to get the messages, we want your loved ones to get them as well. Okay. And we've got one more question here around, unfortunately, a common question around what should I do if I get hit by ransomware? Ransomware is a key one, and unfortunately it's one of those things that upsets businesses more than anything, because we all rely so much on the data that is stored on our computers, on our servers. Most people, including the police, if we lost access to our data, we would struggle to keep going. That's where you get advice from continuity. You have to consider these things. But ransomware, really, what you need to do is you need to be making sure that as soon as you identify it, you disconnect that computer from your network. It might be that we can keep it to one area, one computer. Really, you want to be turning that computer off as soon as possible, because actually the encryption, which is what ransomware is doing, it's encrypting your data. Often what's happening there is it takes some time. If you do it quickly, you might actually stop certain files being encrypted. Okay. You will get ransomware, and you'll get a ransom as part of it, so obviously within the name. We always recommend do not pay that. Okay. You might well be looking at the charge that they're asking for, and it might not be anywhere near as valuable as the information is to you. It's down to yourself. We can't say definitely yes or no, but we recommend not to, because there's nothing to suggest or no reason to really believe that you pay that money, you will get your data back. But we do know that money goes into organised crime groups. It does go into funding things such as terrorism. Okay. Always report it to Action Fraud. If it's something that's incredibly key and urgent, report it to the local police. We will give advice, we will give suggestions, even if it cannot be pursued. Okay, we will still try and give you the advice and the knowledge of how to deal with it in a sensible manner. So there is a website which is called nomoreransom.org. It is a very good website that is run by someone over in America, who's a law enforcement ally. He has been collecting all kinds of decryption keys for various ransomware. It might well be that what you've been hit by can be resolved very quickly and free. After that, once you think you've got rid of the ransomware, be it that we've managed to clear it off for you, always run programs across to make sure your data has its integrity. Make sure that you are checking with antivirus scanners. Okay, sometimes you think you've got rid of it, but actually it comes back a week or two later. Always keep good backups. Always ensure they are backed up sensibly. So if you're going to back up every 6 months, be aware that you could risk losing 5 months and 30 days worth of data. So try and have a regular backup in multiple places if you can, just in case it happens to you. It happens to companies that would never believe it would. It's a simple mistake. It's generally through someone clicking something they shouldn't do, like we mentioned about the emails that come through. So got one more here, sorry, which has come in from Martin. Thank you very much. Is there any help available to get Cyber Essentials certification? I've heard it costs a lot. So within the presentation, we mentioned Cyber Essentials and Cyber Essentials Plus. It's a really good scheme that's now supported nationally by the National Cybercrime Security Centre, which basically it's about you proving to your customers, to your clients, to others that you have got your books in order. There is a lot of a stigma attached to it, sorry, that it costs an awful lot of money. It's really, it costs money if you want to put the money into it. It can cost as little as £300 for you to do a self-assessment of what's there. It will give you some really good suggestions on how to protect yourselves, on what you should be considering when you set up networks, when you set up data sharing policies, etc. It can be as little as £300. If you want to get a company to come in and do it all for you, there's plenty out there. It will cost you considerably more, but there is support out there. I know in the northwest of Leicestershire there is support, there's funding available from the council and for businesses to ensure SMEs keep on it. I know that if you are going to be part of a government procurement chain, you now need to be considered for Cyber Essentials. As a force, we've gone through Cyber Essentials and Cyber Essentials Plus. It's not without a little bit of pain, but that pain is well worth it to know that you are keeping yourselves, your clients, your customers, and your data secure. Okay, so that's the end of the questions we've got now. If you've got any more questions, please email them in. I'll give it another 30 seconds for anything to come in. But thank you ever so much for listening. So any more questions, if you could email them into emergency.management@leics.gov.uk.